I think it's connecting. Let's just give it just a minute.
All right.
Okay. Jeff,
Yes, ma'am.
are you there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Okay. Well, I am catching or making sure a few things are linked up before we get started because, like I told you, there's nothing like getting on Facebook and they've done an update and it all looks different. So let's make sure. It looks like we do have some viewers on though, so I think
Good.
it appears to be working. So I think we're good. So well, first of all, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to meet with us. Um, I know this has probably been a crazy time for y'all to have to just function and try to make the best decisions that you feel like are right, because nobody's ever been in this situation or walked in these shoes. So first of all, before we start, I want to thank you for all your hard work and all the staff's hard work because none of us will ever know what all y'all have been going through. So I just want to start by saying thank you. Um, well, for folks who are online, I just wanted to, first of all, I think most folks know that this is Jeff Wallace, Superintendent of Davie County Schools, and obviously schools right now are a very hot topic. So I felt like this would be a great opportunity to let you kind of connect with some students and some families to let them know kind of on the school systems side of things, sort of where we're at and what we're doing. Um, I'm sitting here. Let me make sure I'm not going off my notes. But one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on was obviously in light of the deadline that is approaching for parents and students to make a decision on the virtual school, which is this Sunday, July 19th. I thought it would be helpful to bring you on, answer some questions that I think we're seeing online that are valid questions, and we want to have the answer come straight from the source. So that was sort of the primary reason. Um, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think any of us can realize what you're probably going through right now in terms of the stress that you're under, the heaviness of the decisions that you're having to make, and and I first and foremost will say I'm glad I'm not sitting in your shoes. So, but I
I've
am,
received that comment a lot.
but I do, but I am glad to know that you are the one sitting in these shoes. Um, so first of all, I want you to give us a little background on as all of these plans have been having to be developed. Give us kind of the background on how Davie County Schools has been working, obviously behind the scenes, because a lot's going on that we don't know about, and let's start there.
Okay. Well, Wendy, thank you obviously for this opportunity. Thank you for all the guests that are tuning in and parents and the community and our staff. Yes, it is very difficult times. And as you've referenced, Wendy, we don't have a reference to fall back on. And that's part of the difficulty. And but what we have done is I meet routinely with superintendents. We meet 3 times a week with superintendents across the state, and particularly in the Piedmont Triad area, 17 of us, from Chapel Hill all the way to nearly to the mountains,
Okay.
that we large in smaller rural schools and urban schools. But we meet and we hash out things. We've been consulting with a national consultant who actually worked with the school system in Joplin, Missouri, and in New Orleans when they were devastated by the weather and situations that happened there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been our one point of reference, and that's been really a tremendous help. But you're right, decisions we have been working on making decisions and considerations for quite some time. Frankly, once March, when the schools were closed on March the 16th by Governor Cooper, we began to obviously think in the immediate, because we were closed for 2 weeks, and then we began to think about what would happen starting as we move forward into the summer and even the beginning next year. And I will tell you, the one reference, although I would say we don't have a reference, the one reference that we do have is the safety of our students and our staff. And that is the platform that we have had to stand on, trying to make these decisions. And that's very difficult when you're dealing with so much unknown with the pandemic and the COVID-19, and there's so much information that's out there, and we do collect and we read a lot of information. And but in order to prepare, one of the things we did early on was form a reopening team, a reopening school team. And that reopening team has parents, teachers, administrators, principals, and that group's about 30 or so. Every school is fully represented, but there's another group that's part of the reopening that I want to make sure everyone understands, and that's Suzanne Wright, our local DHHS director, and
that is the health director. DHHS, Health and Human Services. Okay, just want to.
Yes, ma'am. Davie Health and Human Services director, and she has been phenomenal. A local physician. We talk and run our plans by both of those. And I want to commend John Eller, our county manager, who has also been a part of that smaller team. But they are a part of the reopening group. So basically, we've been working and planning, and we will take draft ideas and plans to them, and they will apply their thoughts to that. So that's again, using the safety of our staff and students has been one of the primary things. Also, we have guidelines that from CDC and the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services that we follow. Those guidelines have been updated now 3 different times since we received those from the governor and from DHHS. But those can be, the most up-to-date copies can be found on our website. And I may mention this a few times during the conversation, but if you'll go to the Davie County Schools website, you will find a page called Safe and Secure.
Right.
Now, there was a COVID-19 page, which is still there, but our information now has been, once we've moved through closure of school, we've moved to the reopening, and that information is under Safe and Secure. Okay. And so those guidelines and things that we're being given are online at that particular page. So,
and I think Jeff, I think that's good to note. Obviously, yes, and I did take some time earlier to go over the Safe and Secure page, and it's on the home page. It's like I think it's at the top, but it's one of the last primary links, and it says Safe and Secure Schools, so it's easy to find. But I like your point about making that guidelines. We're not making up the guidelines. So I think it's important for folks to understand, even though some of the decisions that Davie County Schools is having to make, it is not just because you all are making those decisions. It's very much because there are guidelines at a higher level.
And to that very point, the most up-to-date information we had received, the second version of the guidelines said that children 11 and under did not have to wear masks at school.
Right.
Now that has changed in the most recent update of again this week.
Right.
That's a significant change that we have been directed to follow. It's not our choice.
Right.
And we will adhere to that, but I want to make sure parents know too that we are required for staff and students, anyone on our campuses, to wear a mask.
Right.
Now we will be reasonable with that in regards to, we will call them mask breaks, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, children can't get water, can't drink, can't eat with their mask on, and we understand that.
Right.
We will have guidelines and work through that. We'll spend a lot of time early on working with particularly our younger children to help them understand. Parents, please know if there are medical situations that prevents your child from wearing a mask, we will work with that situation, that's just going to be handled on an individual basis. And also, even though we are expecting kids to wear masks, that is a mandate, we must social distance as well.
Right.
And that is clearly part of the guidelines, which will lead us to part of which we can talk about the plans that's there if you want, whenever you get to that point.
Okay. Couple of things I just wanted to highlight, just based on, because I know we're going to be going over a lot of information. You mentioned the committee. If anybody wants to see the members of that committee, that is also on the Safe and Secure website, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
The committees are divided into 6 groups, and those titles or groups or team or committees based upon the guidelines that are given to us from the state.
Okay.
And again, that's employee health and safety, student learning, operations. Those are three of the quick ones. And the social emotional health and learning for our children and staff. So
Okay.
yes, that information is out there online. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's move along to our next point of discussion because I didn't want to just let you all elaborate on the work that has been going on, but let's talk a little bit about what parents can expect this school year to look like. Especially as parents and students are considering the virtual option, can they expect to see a difference in this year's virtual option versus what they experienced at the end of last year when school closed suddenly the middle of March? So I'm going to let you answer that.
Sure. Great question. And I know that is part of what's on the minds of a lot of parents and staff.
Mm-hmm.
And we have conducted 2 to 3 surveys. I have met with individual groups. I've talked to parents, done forums on Zoom, forums with parents and staff from every school and asked them what they wanted. And one of the clear things that came from that is remote instruction. Some were pleased, some were tremendously disappointed.
Right.
Please, what I want families to know too, we were told on March the 13th or 14th that we had 2 weeks, schools closed for 2 weeks, and we had to build a remote instruction plan, a remote learning plan. And our staff did a phenomenal job. You've mentioned our staff a couple times in the heart. I cannot tell you, parents, I want you to know how hard your staff is working.
Absolutely.
Your people, and they are doing a great job, and you'll see the fruits of that later as some things begin to roll out. But the way school ended with remote learning will look nothing like next year.
Right.
Great point. We have had time to plan.
Mm-hmm.
We are training our teachers. Our teachers have to go through mandated training. We're paying them a stipend before they even start school to come back on August the 10th. That's when our teachers return. But then there will be ongoing training. We have been working with, again, 2 different national consultants that are specifically trained and learn how to build a culture, a virtual culture, and to build blended learning and online instruction and what that should look like. And I say that, I laugh with my group and I say, look, we're building this railroad to get us from the East Coast to the Mississippi River right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I said our plans need to be laid to go from the Mississippi River to the West Coast.
Right.
Because what we're doing here, we want to continue to meet the needs of children. So in making immediate plans, we have to look broader at what we can be down the road as well.
Okay.
And that's what we plan to do. But yes, school will not look anything like that like it did last year. Here's one key thing that we heard from parents. I have 2 children or 3 children, and they all have to go into a different platform or Google Classroom or Zoom or Canvas or something else. Next year, Davie County Schools will move strictly to Canvas, K-12. I have reached out again because I have a couple of good close friends in Forsyth County and Surrey County, and they have been offering virtual classes for quite some time prior to this in the past years. And they had been using another, what called LMS, it's a learning management system. Mm-hmm. They are transitioning to Canvas as well.
Okay.
Why Canvas? It's more robust, it's more uniform, and another piece of what this year will look like is attendance, grades, accountability. There will be ample opportunities for videos and different types of instruction. This instruction coming from Department of Public Instruction and the state will be pushed down through Canvas. So there's many reasons why we have gone to Canvas. Also say this, that in grades K through 5, there's another online tool that's going to be used very successful. It's called Seesaw, SEESAW. We've been using that in some of our lower grades and across the district, and it's been very productive and very user-friendly. Both parents and staff like that. So great question, Wendy, and no, that way school ended last year, which that program was basically built in 2 weeks.
Right.
Would definitely would not be the same way next year. And one key part of that too, parents, we've been moving toward becoming a 1-to-1 district, 1 device to 1 child. We have now been catapulted into that framework or into that area. We have purchased devices that each 6 through 12 student will receive a brand new Chromebook.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is part of the plan to go all the way from the Mississippi, but all the way to West Coast.
Right.
This will be part of our ongoing learning platform and instruction moving forward.
Okay.
For one-to-one. Now, that is the budget has been divided, planned to sustain the one-to-one for 612. But if we have to close, or we have to go back strictly to online for a period of time, or our kids in our virtual school, we will be able to provide devices down through kindergarten. And those are not brand new Chromebooks, but it will operate our LMS system and Canvas and CSA.
Okay. So I think though, because I know me personally as a parent, one thing, and I think something that I'm hearing is there will definitely be. It sounds like there's definitely going to be more structure in place.
Absolutely.
So I think that's good to hear. Okay. Well, I'm gonna move on because I know we have a limited time, and I really did want to have some time to dig into this. The deadline for virtual school is this Sunday. I know there are a lot of parents that are struggling with that. Tell us a little bit about the anticipated schedule for when students who, if they would decide, first of all, that they want to go that route, they have to submit to the deadline this Sunday, but when would they have to make the official decision on whether or not that is the route they plan to go?
Great question, and I will say we've had a very positive response thus far to enrollment in it's called DCS Virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And the deadline for submitting an application is this Sunday. There's a team, Brittany Holland, she's an assistant principal here in the system, but she's been put in charge of that. Brittany and her team will walk through each application, and parents are expected to hear something the latter part of next week about their results of their application and their interest.
Okay.
Parents will have to make that decision relatively quick, and what I mean by that is, if you're notified, the goal is to notify you the latter part of next week from today, say.
Right.
We need parents to make a decision by the Monday, Tuesday of the next week.
Okay.
More information will come on that, and parents will be told that directly. And people may say, why? Jeff, there's so much changing. We're not sure what to do. You've already told us that the guidance has been changed 3 times. What will it change again? That's a great question. But folks, please hear me. We have to build schedules.
Right.
Our schedules, our staffing, our bus routes, and everything is based upon student numbers.
Right.
So we have to get those in place, and to build bus routes and to build a schedule, particularly an A-B schedule that we're going to go on.
Yeah.
Which, Mondays will be A, Tuesdays B, Wednesday will be strictly remote for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Some additional cleaning in the building. Thursday back to A. Excuse me. And Friday will be B. So
Okay.
AB, remote, and AB. But again, we have to divide that up. And let me address that. How will I know whether my child will be in the A group or the B group? Will my brothers and sisters, will all of my children be one particular group? We have battled that, and again, reached out to many different other superintendents and working through plans. We have decided to break that up according to geographic area.
Okay.
What that means is that we hope, now parents, please hear me, it is impossible to put everyone in your household on the same plan, because if they're in different schools, now if they're in the same school, elementary, okay. But you've got to balance numbers, and how are the geographic lines drawn? Based upon the number of children that live in those areas.
Right.
And we've got to be able to go pick them up in a timely and efficient manner. So we're trying to pick up a certain group households. And so if you live in this geographic area, you're in A. Tomorrow, you're in geographic area B. We have an application online under our transportation tab where it's called WebQuest, where parents, in the years past, you can go on there and check your bus route, bus time of arrival, and those things. We will do the same thing. We feel like we can do the same thing this year. We're working with NC State and UNC Charlotte. They work with us to help us build these plans and bus routes. But Mr. Miller and Eric, his assistant there, are working on those. So again, you're divided A-B by geographic area, We're finalizing that. You will be notified of that information.
Okay. Okay. I want to stop you for just a minute. Okay. You mentioned, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but pertaining to the A and B day, and this is me personally, I'm curious to know if, say, I have a child who goes on day A and then they're not in school on day B, will they have instruction on that B day?
Great question. Great. And the answer is yes.
Okay.
Again, what we've learned from the situation in Joplin, Missouri, and New Orleans, and parents know this, children need a schedule.
Right.
So what we're being advised by our consultants are all four of them saying, you need to put a schedule together for your kids. There will be opportunities for what's called synchronous and asynchronous. In other words, your child, Wendy, would be able to log in and communicate via a laptop or device, Chromebook, with their teacher.
Okay.
So if you're in the classroom on Monday, on Tuesday, you will be working virtually, and we will set a schedule.
Okay.
Yes, there will be work, and we want you to follow. Now, parents, I want you to hear this too. You may say, Jeff, I work. My child can't log in on the B day at 10 o'clock every day they're at home or at their child care. We understand that. Teachers will record lessons. There will be videos that will be available at different times.
Right.
But it is important that we set those schedules. I also want to make sure your parents know, Peggy Knuckles, our preschool director, has reached out to local daycares, child care facilities. I'm working with Luke Harris at the YMCA. We are going to send staff in, our curriculum staff, to help train that group, the facilities, to help them set it. We're not going to train them to be a teacher, but we're going to help them work with the online stuff. Set a schedule. Camp Manna, we've already got a schedule from them.
Right.
So my point is, we're reaching out to make sure, even wherever your child is on the day they're not in school, we're doing our best to make sure we set a schedule for them to follow.
Okay.
There will be some flexibility with that as well if you can't be online immediately.
Okay. I want to go back to the virtual option. I want us to take that I want us to take that just a little step further in terms of really trying to explain why the deadline is in place, and explain how it's not just this date that was pulled out of the air. And specifically, can you give us a few examples of problems that might occur if students are able to move in and out of a virtual classroom? I'm curious to know too, based on applications that you received, are you finding that you're having a good response to the option of having virtual?
Absolutely. Yesterday we had over 700 families that had applied.
Wow.
Yes, which makes us feel good.
That's awesome.
And parents, hear this too, please, in community. Our ADM, our average daily membership, that is how we are funded. So
Exactly.
we knew approaching this situation, we need to be as flexible and give as parents as many options as possible while maintaining safety.
And I think something that with that number, Jeff, with that number, just to sort of to keep in mind, 700 students is in some cases more than a school. So that's a huge number of kids.
That is correct. Of course, Davie County High School has 1,750 students.
But when you're looking at elementary, yeah.
Oh yes, this is larger than any of our, if you take that as a whole, that is larger than any of our other schools. That is correct. Now those 700 span across elementary, middle, and high school, for sure. But, so why the deadline? We've got to assign people. We've got to assign teachers.
Right.
And who are we assigning to these classes? We take a look at the needs of our staff as well. How are they with working virtually? Can they do that? We have to consider our staff,
right,
and their health situations as well. So we will work with trying to accommodate staff, but understand too, a teacher is assigned based upon the amount of students we have, the numbers we have. Once we lock that in, that's where we also have class caps. In other words, the state says there can't be any more than X number. Frankly, it's no more than 20 in a physical classroom. So we can't have kids ebbing and flowing in and out of classrooms.
Right.
Plus the consistency we're trying to build. A day, B day can potentially be disruptive enough. The social, emotional, the relationship piece, that we're trying to make sure that our kids do connect with their teacher.
Right.
And again, once we build the schedule, and that's why we're asking for year-long commitment, so we can assign a teacher. Plus, the governor has been very clear. We may have to move in and out of Plan A, B, and C throughout the year.
Right.
So that again, we can't have.
But that goes back to those guidelines and those mandates.
That will come strictly from the governor. That's correct. Yes.
Right. Okay. One thing I'm trying to kind of look at a few questions. Some questions I'm not responding to immediately because I know we're sort of trying to address those. One question I see that's popped up is, what if my child does not get accepted to the virtual? I don't even think that's an option now. I mean, I think if a child requests and it's a reasonable request.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the governor pretty much made that clear. I mean, yes, how do I answer that right now? We're doing our best to meet the needs of children.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. And another thing, just to clarify.
The option for your child, that's what we're going to do.
Right. And just to clarify, you mentioned there were over 700 applications for virtual. Now, is that 700 families or individual students have applied?
That's individual students.
Okay. Okay. I
That's
just
a
wanted
good
to.
question because we have worked through that. That's individual students.
Okay. Okay. So I think the biggest takeaway for me is, I mean, I think sometimes when you're thinking virtual, you're like, oh, we're just talking, 50, 75 kids. We're talking about a massive amount of kids. So when you're looking about, when you're looking at a child looking to transfer in, transfer out, this is not the same situation or scenario as we have a kid move in to Davie County from another state, and we don't have 700 kids move in to Davie County schools in a school year. So I'm glad you let us know the number, because that.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to keep an eye on our time. Let's see. I think we've gone over somewhat of the structure. Now, the magical question: could things change?
Let's go back to the beginning of this this interview. We're on our third rendition of guidelines from the health department of the state. I'm not saying that's bad.
Right.
I'm saying that's based upon data.
Right.
And I want parents to know too, how are decisions being made? When it's health decisions, in large part, we hear from our local, Suzanne Wright, I've already mentioned our health director. We hear from the governor's office. Jeff Coltrane is his education advisor. But we also consult. So, and you say, well, what happens if a teacher gets the virus? Does the whole school shut down? We will work with our health department, but for now, the answer to that is no.
Yeah.
I also want parents to hear too, we were mandated to put forth what's called Summer Jumpstart program.
Uh-huh.
And that has been going on at Grenatzer and Cooley for now 4 or 5 weeks.
Right.
And that has gone very well. Temperature checks every day for every person. Children are responding beautifully. We are providing daycare. I also want parents to know that our Mike Absher and Doyle Nicholson and the team and our high school athletic trainers have done a phenomenal job. We have 250 or so student athletes on campus almost daily. That is going well. Temperature checks. They're staying in pods. So we are working there. We have a few test runs of this, if you will.
Okay.
And it's going very well. Now, there are mistakes. There are things,
Sure.
but it's giving us an opportunity to try.
Yeah.
And to do, and kids are responding.
Okay.
That is phenomenal.
Great.
They're doing a great job with that.
Okay, couple of things I'm going to do, sort of like a I think these are pretty quick questions. I know folks are wanting to know, okay, what's it going to look like in the classroom? What's it going to, how are teachers going to communicate with students? How would teachers communicate with students with special needs? All different things.
Right.
One thing that you mentioned to me earlier is, and I want to reference back to that Safe and Secure page on the website, the school system is planning to do some videos to show what they might see. So I think the answer to that question is, everybody just hold tight. We're getting there. We're just in the last less than a week have we found out what we got to do. So that part is coming, right?
That's correct. And we've already been out and placed desks in particular locations to make sure. And so people will know. Some of our rooms are larger than others,
Mm-hmm.
and there are formulas, there are strict guidelines that one person, Jeff, needs this many square feet to stay 6 feet away from the next person.
Right.
So Jeff and Wendy can be in the room, we've got to have X amount of space.
Okay.
So we take that number and we calculate out how many kids can be in that classroom with
Okay.
the teacher. And still social distance, but there are videos coming, and there will be pictures and virtual tours, what we were hoping as well,
Right.
yes.
Okay. A couple more questions because I think we're getting short on time. First of all, and I saw this question pop up, and it is a good one. I'm curious to know too. A and B. Why is what was the logic in making A on Monday, B on Tuesday? Why did we not do A Monday, Tuesday? A was Monday and Tuesday. Why did we do like not consecutive versus splitting them apart?
Great question. And two primary reasons: instruction, teachers, and parents, for the most part, prefer. A teacher would rather see a child every other day in that setting, if you will, because we strongly looked at A weeks, B weeks, AA, remote, BB. We looked at all those. But from the instructional standpoint, and one of the primary things too, I want people to understand, is the feeding of our children.
Right.
And and for our school nutrition program, the A, B work best. Instruction and school nutrition are pretty much where that landed.
Okay. Okay. If a child ends up doing the A day, B day, when would potentially a parent know? Is that going to be sort of a similar information of when you get a call knowing who your teacher is? Or, I mean, because teachers aren't back yet. I mean, I think they've probably felt like this year they haven't been off at all. But when would that be a realistic?
I have looked at two different versions of an A area and a B area. I just got off the phone with Mr. Miller, our transportation director, just a few minutes before this interview, and I said to him, this is the first time I've heard a little positive pep in your voice.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we have been on the phone today with NC State and UNC Charlotte. I think it's going to work out better. I can't give you the exact answer, but I can tell you we've already into our second version, so that should come soon.
Okay.
Now,
And I'm sure a lot of that depends on who goes virtual and who's not. You got to get those out of the
we've
the
got
mix.
to know, because
Yeah.
we can't build the final routes
right.
until we know who's virtual and who's not. And here's one plea: parents, we can only put one child unless they come from the same household. If Wendy and I are brother and sisters, we can sit in the seat together.
Right.
Otherwise, it has to be one child per seat. That makes us run multiple routes. We're
Right.
going to try to open schools and accommodate, if parents can please work it out to bring their children.
Okay.
That will help us tremendously. Otherwise, we will run multiple bus routes if we have to. So we have up to as many 60, 70 elementary kids riding one bus.
Yeah.
If we only put one kid per seat, that's 20 kids, 23
Yeah.
kids or whatever.
Well, I
And that
think
means
there's a
it
lot
would
of
take 2.5 times to get that route there.
yeah. There's a lot of logistics that folks on the outside looking in we just don't even think about because that's not our. You know, when you specialize in something, you know that, and
Right.
we from the outside, we haven't walked in those shoes, and vice versa. You all haven't walked in some of our shoes.
And
So,
that's why we have-
so I
yes,
think
go
we
ahead.
all have to show one another some grace, and
That's right.
so
And I will tell you, I want parents to understand, I don't want you to get that equation mixed up. Because we only have half the students in the school every day. That means, Jeff, you just cut that bus route in half. That's correct. So it will help us. But if you can bring children, that will help. But we will provide transportation as best we can. But Wendy, you're right. The logistics and the pieces that just many people don't think about. You're exactly right. That's why our leadership team listens to those specialists. And we also go to parents and teachers
Okay.
and our community and national consultants as well that have walked through this before.
okay. Well, I'm going to close this down because honestly, we could talk about it all day long.
That's all I've talked about.
I'm sure. But I will tell you this, and the people who have posted comments, because we've had quite a few, and I've tried, it's been hard to kind of go back and forth and stay. So, but you all have access to see these same questions. I'll make sure that they're passed along so they're taken into consideration. Because I think that's something you all want to know. You want to know what questions, but there is also a way to ask a question without being rude. You know, and people just have to understand that none of us have ever been in this situation before, ever. And one of us may think we know what's best, but that's what we think so anyhow, I appreciate you taking the time. I want to encourage, I really do want to encourage people to utilize that website because, or that web page that's on the school system, because that is, and it's going to be a living and breathing page, and it's going to grow. So we need to, this is, I think, a time in our community where we have to work together.
That we have to work together, and it is fluid. There will be an FAQ out there. We are taking questions. Ms. Haynes and I worked last night. We heard from our staff. Just give us the raw notes. Now, we're not going to send raw notes out to parents because it gets to be confusing because it's got education jargon in it. But we will get an FAQ out there, and there's already an FAQ out there that's put out by the state that gives us a lot of our guidelines.
Yeah.
So that's out there. Safe and secure page. Absolutely.
Okay, well, I am going to, I'm going to let you go. And I want to thank you for doing this, and I hope it's been helpful. I think we're getting some positive feedback. Again, we've gotten several questions, and I'll make sure all that is passed along. But I just want to, I'm a parent, and I want to remind everybody that we've only found out what we were supposed to do. It's been a week. So there's a mammoth amount of work that you all are having to do on that end in terms of the coordination, because you're coordinating not only 6,000 kids, but how many staff members?
Nearly 1,000.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, there is tons of things to consider. So I hope, and it may be that later on, if this is beneficial, once we kind of are into that next phase, we may do it again. So we'll.
I'm glad to do that. And again, when you've said it, please be patient with us. Thank you so much for those of you who've been positive. And I can assure you, your positive and kind words. There's been people that have called up and purchased lunch for different people. Thank you so much for that. But be gracious with us. Be graceful to each other. Be patient with your children. We're working through it, and we will. Again, decision will be made based upon the safety of our staff and of our students, for sure.
Okay.
So, thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Try to get some rest this weekend.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
Okay.
Thanks a bunch.
See you. Bye.